I am your host, Mike McWilliams, and this is the Upstairs to the Right music channel you have tuned into. Thank you so much for doing so. I always like to start out by saying that your time is a precious thing, and the fact that you spend a little bit of yours with me is greatly appreciated. So, thank you so much for doing so. I want to welcome you guys to the Wednesday Night Hump, our live stream that we do every Wednesday night, 11 p.m. here, Central European time. We have Ben Allmark in the house as always. Glad to see you, Ben. I'm glad that you're doing well. I appreciate your support, always being here, always supporting the live stream means a lot to me, man, and all of you guys. While we wait for more people to show up here in the live stream, I will talk about things that have gone on here at Upstairs to the Right Music Studio. Okay, Michael Watson in the house. Hello, Mr. Watson. How you guys doing? Um, well, I can talk about the shipment for this month now that it has been secured, paid for, and on its way. So I was able to find a couple of nice guitars, but the one that I want to talk about tonight is another Greco. I bought a Greco SC 600, and the Greco SC 600 is the Super Sounds. And it has its original XL pickups in it, but it is in a not body wise, no nicks and dings. The neck, no problem, but it is in need of some TLC. It needs to get some parts taken apart and polished. It may need some parts replaced, but overall it's got good bones to it, so I bought it very cheaply, and my intention is to fix it up and to take it to the guitar show that we're doing here in September in the Netherlands, in Veenendaal, and using it as a trade-in guitar for something. I was so inspired. I think I said this before by Greg the guitar. The guitarologist, Brad the guitarologist, he went to God, where was that? Somewhere he went to a music show, just like Veenendaal, and he traded in his Les Paul. And so I said, hey, I like that idea. Let's take one of our instruments in and see what we can do as far as that's concerned. So, but first, got to get it here. And second, got to get it fixed up. Now, here is an interesting tidbit that is not commonly known. I didn't know it until I experienced it the last few days. Um, in order to do that repair, there are several parts that I ordered, and I only want to use Japanese-made parts. I don't want to use any Chinese parts on the restoration of this guitar. I'd like to try to use its original or the manufacturer of its original parts as close as possible where I need to. And yeah, Japanese parts are a little bit more expensive, of course, than Chinese ones, but I'm restoring a Japanese guitar. I think it deserves Japanese parts. Now, the funny thing, I put in an order with my agent in Japan to find a replacement Strat pick guard for this instrument that's coming in. Somebody tried to or thought to some they did down in the switch area. I think maybe they tried to convert it to a five selector switch. As I said before, the 600 series had a three selector switch. It wasn't until you got into the 700 series, like we have here, that you got a five position switch. um, that's not going to work. I'm going to restore it back to its original glory in that regard, but I had to find a pick guard. Now, one ply pick guards, this is a Chinese example. So we have here a Chinese, it's a fully loaded pick guard, but for tonight's demonstration, it'll do. This is basically a one ply pick guard. And for some reason, in Japan, as it stands, Frederick Rogers, Mr. Rogers, in the neighborhood. Welcome, sir. Uh, for some reason in Japan, not fully loaded, but just the already cut and formed Strat pick guards are actually getting hard to find blanks. Uh, I put in an order for two pick guards. One was to do the restoration on this Greco that's coming in. The other one was to finish the restoration that I was doing on the Epiphone P90, the 56 P90. As you know, I had Fern cut the truss rod cover on that one, but it still needed a pickguard cover. I found one that worked perfectly, a Japanese made one, and that also was refused by my agent. Wrote me and said, "Hey, they can't fill this order on these pick guards. Everything else I can get, pick guards, no way." Then I had to reach out to my guy in Tokyo at TC Gaki and speak to them. And he indicated that right now there's a shortage. First of all, in the Japanese shops, they don't carry parts like that like they used to. I used to be able to go into a shop like Ishibashi in Shibuya, and I could find all the parts that I needed pretty easily. Not so much these days, and so they're not really carrying those parts. And they only there's a supplier, so you order it from Ishibashi, for example, a well-known Japanese guitar shop, and they will then place the order with their distributor in order to fill that order. They don't carry it physically in stock there, and as a result, they have no stock. And this is up and down. At least I checked in the Kanto and the Kansai region. I don't know about Hokkaido and Okinawa, but yeah, I was shocked. I could not fill that order. So I had to do a little bit digging. I was sent to the direction of the distributor, the main distributor that services all of these guys, all the guitar shops, and all of Japan gets serviced by this shop, believe it or not. I couldn't believe it just comes down to one shop, one distributor. So I reached out to a friend of mine who lives in Tokyo, and they're going to go down this week or next week. Go down to the shop in Akihabara and see if directly to the distributor and see if they can locate these two pickguards that I want. Now you're saying to yourself, well, Mike, you know, you go on Tomon and you could get a Fender pickguard, or you could get a Harley Benton pickguard, anyway, something like that. But no, as I said before, when I do these restorations, I do want to use as authentic as parts as possible to that model. And that model is not an 11-hole pick guard, it is an 8-hole pick guard. That's the first thing. So try finding one of those outside of Japan. And second of all, unless you make it. And they do have it. The distributor does have it. My friend checked their website and said, yeah, they got it. So I'm in business again. Just got to get somebody down to Akihabara physically, halfway across the world, to get this part. And I tell this story because this is the kind of thing that you run into when you're doing what I do. And it's an interesting little bit of information that the distribution channels for a lot of parts, it seems, from what I was told, is starting to dry up in Japan. And I'm going to take that as a sign. When my person does get down to that distributor, I've actually given a laundry list of other parts that I don't necessarily need right now, but I think it's better to stock up on these things while they're available. There used to be mini shops in Akihabara. It's the electronics capital of Japan. Anything that you can think of, you could get there. I spent in the 90s, I would go there at least once a week. I was down there. And shops like this have diminished. There used to be so many shops like this guy that you go to. Now it seems like there's this guy and maybe one or two others. So it's a shame in that regard. But when you have that lack of shops and distributors, you're also seeing a lack of items. As again, I note to you that consumer channel getting thinner and thinner as it goes down, your choices getting thinner and thinner. And this is another example of that. What the distribution issues are exactly, I don't know. Sorry, I'm rubbing my shoulder here, guys. I have a little bit of a headache, and generally it always starts in my shoulder right here. So if I rub that area, it usually goes away. We'll see. But I shall persevere tonight. Um, and so, yeah, I found that little bit of information very interesting. So, yes, it was an averted disaster in terms of me trying to get, because it would have been, if I got that here, I would have had to use, an 11 hole, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 hole pick guard. Didn't want to do that. I wanted to use the original 8 that 600 series came with. Interesting enough, the 700 series comes with an 11 hole pick guard. So, and back then, man, that stuff was all over the map, and that's one of the the pain in the asses about trying to put something, restore it back to its original looks. Yeah, sure. I could buy an 11 hole pick guard and I could drill some extra holes in that and it looked just nice on the surface. But when you took that pick guard off and looked, you'd see that there was those extra drill holes, and I don't want to do that. I'd rather really get it as, if I've got to restore that pick guard, which it looks like I'm going to have to, you know. But in the process of doing that, I've spent the last 2 days trying to track down a pick guard for a Strat in Japan, and you would never think that used to not be a difficult thing to do, but boy howdy, it is now. I had no idea. My guy at the shop told me, yeah, he said it's a Moondokusai. There's a lot of trouble, too much trouble to find them. Hey, Mike and friends, managed to catch a weekday for once. Hey, House Dumb Funk, welcome, welcome. I'm glad you were able to catch it. Just warming up the ball pin here. So that was my adventures for the last 2 days, trying to just really track down two pick guards. And I didn't think that was a big deal when I placed the order on Sunday. I said, "Oh, well, that's it. Just got to wait for the guitars to come, the parts to come, and get to it." Now, my agent in Osaka said, "Hey, man, they're saying no, we can't fill this order." I was like, "What?" And that began the last 2 days of what I've been digging into. So, welcome to my world. Um, Slow news week. So let's talk about Gibson. um, Today we're going to dive into the epic showdown that's been going on between Gibson and Dean guitars over the iconic V and Z shape. This legal battle has been going on for quite a while. I've mentioned it before here. There has been an update on it. I thought that I would discuss it tonight in tonight's chat. I've written a script here. We'll go through the course of this. If it quite makes it to an hour, great. If it doesn't, maybe it'll be a little short tonight. But it is something that I thought would be interesting to talk about. Now, this legal battle has been intense, and the recent ruling in favor of Dean Qatar marks a significant movement, or rather, I should say, not movement, a movement in the guitar industry. So let's break down what happened and what it means for both companies and the future of these legendary guitar shapes. Now, in order to talk about today, we need to go back. I have a couple of things open here, but this one I opened up in order to get the date specifically. Back in June of 2019, let's go back. Gibson updated a since deleted video to YouTube. It's interesting they deleted it. Couldn't let it ride, huh, boys? Couldn't stand by your word, could you, boys? And in the which the then director of brand experience, Mark Agnesi, discussed trademark infringement. In the video, Agnesi cautioned other guitar builders. Sorry, guys. Little slur there. Agnesi cautioned other guitar builders, "You have been warned. We are looking out, and we are here to protect our iconic legacy." So the gauntlet got thrown down in June of 2019 when then the latest, after the Henry J. era, set of boys moved into the Gibson headquarters. And they threw down the gauntlet saying, basically, we're going to go out and start suing everybody we can. Not that it was successful for them before, and we'll talk about that tonight. I've got two instances where this is a three strikes. This is the third lawsuit that I know that Gibson put up that they lost. We'll talk about that. So we set the stage. We went back a little bit and talked about them and Mark Agnesi's now infamous video. But Gibson has been fiercely protective of its trademark guitar shapes like the Flying V and Explorer, also known as the V and Z models. These shapes are iconic and have been associated with rock and metal music for decades. However, many other companies, including Dean Guitars, have produced similar shapes for years, not just for years, since the early 1970s. One of the things about having a trademark is that if you don't defend it, you tend to lose it. And because of financial issues and changes of ownerships and people looking at other issues, they didn't stop to think back in the 70s and 80s, hey, maybe we need to, every now and then just show that we're willing to defend these trademarks. And since they didn't, woe unto them now. Now, Dean Guitars, founded by Dean Zielinski in 1977, okay, mid 70s, has been a notable name in the industry, particularly for its V and Z models. These guitars have been used by many famous musicians, adding to their popularity. If you can get your hands on a 70s Dean Flying V, then you got yourself something. Now, a lot of these were faked by our friend in Las Vegas. What's his name? Gosh, it's late, guys, and I have a slight headache. So, anyway, there was a guitar guy in Las Vegas, famously known. I've talked about him before in the past. His name escapes me. That was faking these as well. So there's some fake ones out there, but if you can find one, even the ones that were faked by this guy now are actually have some cachet to them. Go figure. Go figure the collector's market. You have yourself something. And they are actually more accessible, and obviously even these are more affordable than the Gibson counterparts, which can run into the hundreds of thousands of dollars, $500,000 in some cases for some of these models. Now, in 2019, Gibson filed a lawsuit right after that video against Dean Guitar's parent company, Armadillo. Everybody at that time said, "Hey, this is a gauntlet being thrown down," and they were right. It was a gauntlet that was made of tissue paper, as it turns out. But it was a gauntlet thrown down. So shortly after that video, Armadillo Enterprises was sued, claiming that Dean was infringing on its trademark. Trademark. Boy, I forgot my drink, guys, and you can see how it is when I don't have something to drink. Gibson argued that the V and Z shapes were archonic and legally protected designs. This wasn't the first time Gibson went to court to protect its designs. They had similar cases before in the past against PRS. We're going to talk about that. And also against Fernandez guitars in Japan. I just talked about that when we were talking about Japanese guitars. And by the way, just as a little slap back to the last live stream where I was talking crap about Gibsons, those are counterfeits. In the lawsuit that was put forward, Gibson used the word counterfeit. They did not view them as competition, which is what they really are, Gibson wanted to put Dean guitars in the same category as Gibson. Okay, just to give you an idea of these guys and their frame of mind, their frame of their reference of mind, point of mind. Now, Gibson argued that the V and C shapes were iconic and legally protected designs. As I said, this wasn't the first time that Gibson went to court to protect its designs. They had similar cases against Paul Reed Smith in 2005 and Fernandez guitars in 2012. Despite these efforts, Dean Guitars fought back, arguing that these shapes had been in use for over 40 years and were, in fact, generic shapes in the guitar industry. Dean also pointed out that many other companies have been making similar guitars also for decades. Now, I can say that Gibson putting Dean guitars in the same category as Gibson's is an insult. That's the first thing. And the second thing, as I said, to be the new guys in, and you're sitting there in your office and you're like, hey, wait a minute. How come we've never done anything about, the other past owners? How come they never did anything about these lawsuits? Doggone it. We're litigious sons of bitches. Let's, go and again try to retry these cases that we've lost in the past because doggone it, we're smarter. We got better lawyers, etc. But the result of that was in May of 2022, a Texas federal jury sided with Gibson, finding that Dean's guitars did infringe on the trademarks of Gibson. However, the jury also found that Gibson had delayed taking action for too long, which caused undue prejudice to Dean. As a result, Gibson was awarded only $4,000 in damages per trademark. 2 trademarks, 8,000. So, by the way, they spent $3 million litigating this. So $3 million to win an $8,000 and an $8,000 damages. That's great there. But the battle didn't end there. Dean Guitars appealed the decision, and recently the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit, I know a little bit about Fifth Circuit appeals. Basically, good luck in the case of Gibson trying to win an appeal, granting a new trial. First, you file an appeal, that'll get dismissed. Then you try to get a retrial on this. This ruling was based on the court's decision that evidence of other companies producing similar guitar models should be allowed in court. See, that wasn't allowed in court. The jury just had to say there was this imaginary world where there was just Gibson and just Dean, and somehow or another, Dean was counterfeiting Gibson's designs. They weren't allowed to hear about Fernandez, PRS, anybody else. Now, if a new case comes up, they will be. So that's been overturned. So now you're 3,008,000 in the hole. Because Dean doesn't have to pay that. So for $3,008,000, you guys just did a dandy job. You did fantastic. It's par for the course for your other cases because you lost those on the same ground. And insanity is the definition of doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. You guys are insane, is what I'm saying. Just something to think about. Dean has celebrated this ruling as a major victory. The CEO of Armadillo Enterprises expressed satisfaction, stating that the decision affirms Dean's commitment to fair competition and their legacy models. Their attorney emphasized the importance of recognizing the history and the widespread use of these guitar shapes. True, all true. On the other hand, Gibson is not backing down. The plan to request a reconsideration of the appellate court's decision is in the process. Gibson still maintains that their guitar shapes are iconic and crucial to the brand's legacy, and thus the legal saga will continue. So, what does this mean moving forward? Well, first of all, this will allow Dean guitars to continue producing their V and Z models. They don't have to stop. So, there was a time when I said, hey, you may want to consider buying a Dean if you can find a good one, a real one, not one made in the USA. Uh, you might want to consider wanting getting that because if they can't even produce the fake, not the fake ones, they can't produce the more modern day versions of those. Uh, that will just put a little cachet on the American made ones from back in the day, 70s and 80s. But with this ruling, it's just going to be status quo with that, which is a good thing. Which is a good thing. I'm glad that Dean is able to go on and produce these guitars. Now, interestingly, this case could set a precedent for future disputes in the industry. It raises questions about how far a company can go in protecting its legal designs or its legitimate designs, and where the line is drawn between being iconic branding and generic use. See, that's what it came down to: iconic branding versus generic use. The Les Paul shape is a generic shape now. You could have anything on the headstock other than Gibson. And when somebody, even in some cases, a non musician who may know a little bit, looks at that, they're going to say, hey, that's the Jimmy Page guitar. Or, hey, in the case of Strat, that's the Jimi Hendrix guitar. I'm being a little old fashioned. I could say John Mayall. I could say John Five, whatever. But the point is that the shapes have become kind of generic and iconic. So now the argument is where does the legalities fall on that in terms of use? Um, like I said, they had a case against Paul Reed Smith, and I had it open here. Where is that? I guess I lost the window. I guess it was 2012 where they went against PRS for the same thing. This would be the Henry J. Administration, not the current one, but they went after PRS, Paul Reed Smith, our good buddy, uh, with the same thing, and they lost. They lost, and again because it's now and the case in Tokyo against in the Tokyo courts against Fernandez versus Gibson, they lost again because it was ruled generic use as opposed to the iconic branding argument that Gibson puts forward. Why they continue to keep going down this path, I do not know. Again, like I said, I know it's the new boys in town, and they think that they're going to show up the last guys, and we're going to do it better, and we're going to show you how to, how to how to litigate these things properly. Well, no, no. You got a goose egg just like the other administrations when they tried to do this. It's too late. You didn't protect your patents, or at least try to. There was sending a cease and desist letter in the 70s to Ibanez ain't quite going to cut it. It ain't going to. You got to do a lot more than that back then to show you were serious about it. But again, like I said, money woes, changing hands, buyouts, things like that, it all kind of got swept under until much later when they started saying, oh man, there's a whole lot of Les Paul shapes out there and none of them say Gibson on it or even Epiphone. We got to do something about this. Well, too late. Too late. In conclusion, the Gibson versus Dean guitar case is a fascinating example of trademark law in the music industry, in my opinion. While Dean Guitars celebrates a significant victory, Gibson remains determined to protect its legacy. That they have to. Again, I told you, Dick Gibson is running off of the smoke, and ashes of Rock Pass, the ghost of Rock Pass. And realizing this is one of the reasons they're moving to become a luxury brand or a consumer brand, whatever the term is. Which, by the way, it was recently, in the last few weeks, discovered that LVMH, producers of expensive handbags, Louis Vuitton and such, were actually having most of those bags made in sweatshops where the actual cost of the bag to be produced, not including the cost of the leather used, was about $57, and they were selling these for $5,000. So next time your girl or your significant other says, "Hey, how come you never buy me a Louis Vuitton bag?" Now you have a news article you can point to and say, "I'm not putting my money into that crap." It's a scam. And you know, in terms of manufacturing, the reason I bring that up is to point out about brands and icons and this that and hang on to the smoke and mirrors of the past in order to drudge up future sales. uh Changing your strategy of who you're appealing to. LVMH and those guys used to appeal to rich folks, and those bags were produced in really nice workshops by artisans. When they, in the latter part of 2008, decided to advertise for the first time, it wasn't that long ago. 2008 was the first time LVMH started putting up those TV commercials, thus marketing their bags for the common people, and thus why they are created the way that they are. You know, what did Marie Antoinette said? Let them eat cake. If they have no bread, let them eat cake. And Gibson and these guys switching up from, well, we're not going to sell guitars anymore. We're going to sell jackets. Let's not get into where those jackets are produced and how much you're going to charge for them. Lifestyle brand is what they're trying to become. And it's, again, they just diminish themselves. They diminish themselves. Maddie Two Hats in the house. I'm sorry I didn't see you. Mr. Rodriguez in the house. How you doing, sir? Better late than never. I appreciate all you guys always showing up and supporting this channel. If you like the content, if you like what you're hearing so far, please don't forget to hit that like button. Hit those likes, guys. Hit those likes. I need that like button. Hit it up here, whether you're watching this live or you're going to catch this in the rerun. Don't forget to hit that like button. Yeah, short subject tonight. Short live stream tonight on this subject. I just wanted to cover it briefly. But yeah, this is a fascinating example of trademark law. Um, the outcome of this case will undoubtedly have ripple effects across the industry. Um, of course, would, in the case of Dean Guitars, um, they are outsourcing to Indonesia just like everybody else. What I would like to see is for them to try to increase their US based production again of these guitars. And I would like to see a resurgence of musicians who are playing that. A lot of people backed away when that lawsuit first went through and it looked like doomsday for Dean. A lot of their acts backed off. I'd like to see them and maybe some new cats come in. And I'd like to see that kind of success because this is not counterfeiting. This is called competition. And as you know, I encourage competition. I think it's good. Keeps people on their toes. If there were if Gibson were successful in all of its legal battles, the competition would be very thin and they would be worse. Guaranteed. Their product would be worse. They produce 170,000 guitars a year. It'd be worse. The condition quality of those 170 if they had no competition. Now they got a little competition. Now they got to dig a little deeper. And that's good. That's good. It's a good thing. So I am glad that this was overturned. I was deeply disappointed. The initial ruling, um, no, I didn't go out and set off fireworks and yelling mega horns and shouting like people seem to feel these days when things don't go their way. But I was disappointed in it. I am pleased to see that it has been overturned and that Gibson has now spent $3,008,000 to find out what they had been told twice, to my knowledge, before. Don't do this. Forget about it. Too late. Now, where did that $3,008,000 come out of? It came out of those price increases that they put on their guitars. Somebody had to eat that up. Insurance didn't pay for all that. Mm. And so I think they need to stop. I think they need to stop with the litigation. You know, I guess it's a nice thing when you're sitting around at the bar in Manhattan with your buddies and you're knocking back, $100 martinis, and you're saying, "Yeah, we're gonna sue those hicks. We're gonna get those guys," and you sound all cool, but the results aren't exactly so flattering. Not exactly so flattering. Phil Rodriguez, they could reduce their price if they could stop suing people. Yeah, that's my point exactly. Maybe what I'm trying to say, in other words, maybe your guitars would be a little bit cheaper if you didn't spend $3,008,000 suing people unsuccessfully. Maybe you should have learned from the past. And maybe competition is a good thing. Maybe you should welcome it. You're turning into a lifestyle brand anyway, aren't you? Isn't that what you said, Gibson? So why would you care about the people who are actually producing guitars? Matty Two Hats. True, Phil. They could also give their employees a bonus also. That's right, too. Even better part. Even better point. That $3 million could have gone into CNC machine improvements, lights in the building, employee salaries or vacations or bonus pay. I could go down the list. I go down the list. So when I entitled this Gibson loses again, their losses are not just in the legal sense, but again, their moral compass has shown to be quite off base. Not exactly hitting true north. As a matter of fact, it's kind of moving a little bit to the far left there. So, good. Good for Dean. Good for Fernandez. Good for PRS Guitars. Good for Gibson for taking down that stupid Mark Agnesi video. Because even they, in their cluelessness, and I know these guys. I know these suits. I told you before. I've worked around. I've been around them. I work very closely with suits of many majors, like the WWE or whatever they call themselves now. The wrestling. I dealt with those guys. The guys behind the scenes are nothing like the wrestlers. Wrestlers were good people. The suits behind the scenes were all Ivy League dicks. And your Harvard diploma means nothing to me. It means nothing to me. Your arrogance shows your insecurities. And those guys are the ones that are making these decisions. And they don't care two shits about employee benefits, proving their product. No, 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 that's not them. So the fact that they failed so miserably is a joy to me. If you haven't been able to suss that out, this is not something that I am upset about. I read last, and it's funny. Again, just in the last live stream, I was defending Gibson against Chipsons. I was saying that in that true case of counterfeits, that you know they're the scourge of the planet. Chipsons. I'm of that opinion. I think I made that abundantly clear. And if Gibson could do something to stop that, where they're making not just the iconic Les Paul shape, but putting Gibson in poorly done ways script on the headstocks, that's counterfeiting. Dean didn't do that, Gibson. So for you to call Dean guitars counterfeits in your lawsuits is a DM. You know, that means dick move. It was a DM. And not the same thing as Chipson. Yeah, Chipsons are just sad. Feel bad for the buyers and video makers. Yeah, Siggy. Yeah, I do too. But watch the last live stream. I'm not going to go down that yellow brick road tonight again. I think I covered it well enough last time. But yeah, so Gibson loses again. These guys, man, cocaine is a hell of a drug. 'Cause that's the only conclusion that I can come to, is that they're high. Because again, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results is the definition of insanity. And they are 3 times a loser going down this pathway. How much you guys want to bet the next Black Rock represented takeover team comes in that they try the same crap in 5 or 6, 7, 9 years or whatever? How much you guys want to bet? I'm not a betting man. Matter of fact, I'm up in Vegas. I was in Vegas once. I put $2 in a slot machine in Circus, and I walked out with $230. And I have not placed a bet or been back since. I'm up 230 in Vegas. I'm up 230 in Vegas for about 25, 26 years now. But I'm not a betting man. But I bet you that's exactly what's going to happen. Because they don't learn. They don't learn. I know the type. They don't learn. But, that's all right. Well, again, a short subject tonight. I don't think we're going to reach a full hour on this one tonight. But I did want to do a live stream on it. Black Rock Guitars. It's coming. It's already here. It's called Gibson. What you talking about, Willis? Oh God! I'm sorry. I'm trying to put the grin down off my face every time these guys get sucker punched, but I just can't think of a more deserving motley crew. Gibson guitars for finance bros, made by finance bros. Yeah, exactly. So if that's the case, then why are you worried about these peasant guitars that are being made over here by Dean and PRS and others? Why are you so worried? Why are you so concerned? Or is it that maybe you realize that you're all smoke and mirrors? So yeah, I can't be really sad about that one, guys. I really cannot be too sad about that. I'd like to say that it couldn't happen to a better bunch of schmoes, and if it keeps on happening to them, then whose fault would that be in this case? It pretty much will fall on them, because they're the ones that want to try to pursue this course of action that obviously is not working. Just having the G name is going to give them credit no matter what. Well, what it is, guys, is that they saw when Marshall licensed out to to Zounds, to produce their lifestyle stuff. That's when you start seeing Marshall headphones, you start seeing Marshall jackets, started seeing Marshall, baby pacifiers, you know, you start to see a Marshall everything. And they made a killing. They made more money. Z Sounds, with that license agreement with Marshall, made more money with that stuff than they did selling the actual Marshall amps. I've told you this before. And do you think that that went unnoticed by the Gibson guys? They were like, holy crap, we need to but we're not going to license ourselves out to another party. We're going to be our own man, like Liberace. And we're going to do this ourselves in house, and we're going to create this license, and we're going to go in that direction. But that was the genesis of it, is seeing the money so much. Z Sounds made so much money off of that, they bought Marshall out. They are now the owners of Marshall. The guys that Marshall hired to do their licensing made so much money that they were able to buy Marshall out. Dig that. I've told you guys that. But again, that did not go unnoticed by Gibson. Why they scared of other brands? Don't know, Ziggy. Like I said, because they don't have a real market there anymore. Have a look at the Czar Collection Gibson TV video. That tells you all you need to know about these guys. Yeah, I saw that, Maddie. I saw that when that came out, and that's why I said, you can wear jeans jackets and your Las Vegas souvenir shop jewelry and make yourself look hip, you think, but underneath, man, they tell on themselves. They tell on themselves, and I don't think they see it. Caesar and Dean EP was pretty good. Phil Rodriguez. Sorry, guys, my tongue is getting thick. I don't have my water here. Phil Rodriguez, that brings up the point about relevance questions, owners aging out. Yeah, like I said, the reason to answer Ziggy's question about why are they scared of the brands, because their situation is tenuous, because they're linking back to icons and stuff that were in the 60s, and that generation is moving on to the great beyond. And so they have to try to create something new. Even guys like me, who I would say would come from arguably the Slash generation, I guess it could be argued to say. Uh, that's, you know, well, it's crazy how the business side works. Yeah, isn't it? Matty Two Hats. Yep. But Harley working class people, he comes from high fans. Yeah, like I said, a fruit by a tree by its fruit. And he, you know, I've had my comments regarding that. At this point, it would just be assassination of character, and I don't feel like doing that. I still feel like there are only two guitar sounds: Fender Twang and Gibson Crunch. Well, you forget about the Gretsch sound. I think is unique in itself, and I would argue that the Telecaster can produce the sound of all those all in itself. The Swiss Army knife of guitars is the Telecaster. Two hats. As a matter of fact, most large recording software brands have now been bought up by large conglomerates. Yeah. Again, I'll end this tonight by reminding you of that narrow channel that you as a consumer are being led down. And you can see this. I opened up tonight talking about how I could not find in Japan a Japanese made 8-hole Strat cover. Because the distributor is low, and that's because there is less distributors, less competition, and everybody's ordering from this guy. So now I know my guy. Thank God I know guys in Japan I can talk to in Japanese, because they ain't gonna tell you guys you ain't shit, but to tell me this is the guy you need to go see because he's the one that we buy from. So now I've got the main distributor. But there used to be a time when there were a lot of these guys, and the fact that there's just one worries me. And I've in my experience in Japan since in over the years, I've seen that channel for the consumer get narrower. Worldwide is what I'm telling you. And I've witnessed it worldwide firsthand. So there is that. I like to think that real art will make a comeback over this AI takeover. Well, AI is a buzzword. A lot of the finance guys are actually saying that there's no money to be made. They're like, wait a minute, this is, we're seeing no transactional differences. In other words, they're seeing no advancements in AI. AI, you know, Chat BT, Chat GBT is nothing but an advanced version of Grammarly. You guys know what I mean by that. Let that sink in. And it's the same thing with the music AI. Anyway, on a positive note, as Mike always points out, yeah, thank you, Maddie. We have great alternatives to choose from, especially used. Yes, we do. We still do. And while that channel is open, I encourage you guys to use it. Please do. Do I have a cross to bear in this? Yes, I do. I'm a seller of secondhand instruments. So, of course, I'm going to promote the, the purchase of secondhand instruments. No, you guys don't want to buy those things. Just buy new, forget it. Just buy the new one. No, it's not me. And so, of course, I have an agenda. It's a very surface one. I hope I like to keep it surface with you guys and be as honest and forthcoming as possible. But yeah, I have an agenda myself there, but I think it's a positive agenda. Bringing power back to the little guys somehow, same way. Well, there was a comedian by the name of George Carlin who said, "It's a big club and you ain't in it." There was a musician by the name of Frank Zappa who said, "Someday the facade is going to be taken up and you will see nothing but the true uh, realism of life, and it's a brick wall with no windows." I paraphrase there, but yeah. In other words, that's not going to happen. I just brought my dream telly from Ibanez, for Rodriguez says. Yeah, man, that's great. Yeah, man, dig that. I've been digging into, I was mentioning Aria Pro 2 in the last live stream, so I was looking at those today. Of course, I'm familiar with Ibanez models. The other guitar I'll close out with tonight that I bought, guys. So I said that I bought two guitars, and the first one was a Greco, the SC600 Strat that I was spent the last 2 days trying to find a replacement pickguard for. The other guitar I didn't mention is an EG700. I bought another Les Paul. Speaking of Les Pauls, I bought a Greco, my first Greco Les Paul, I believe. I think. It's getting kind of confusing. Yeah. This is my first Greco Les Paul. Again, in the condition that I expect it to be, which is almost new, close enough. Still with the sticker on the back in its original case. With its original pickups, which I went through in my live stream Japanese pickups. I talked about Japanese pickups. This has its original U2000 pickups in it. And that's very rare because usually people take these out. These pickups in themselves have a value out there on the market. So we have two Grecos coming this month. I doubled down on Grecos, a Strat and a Les Paul. The Strat is from 1977 and the Les Paul is from 1978. So I have 70s Grecos coming in. So I'm excited about that, guys. It has been quite a labor finding the parts, but somehow I have. So great. Yeah, Siggy Sauer just said, I hear good things about Greco, but the models are pretty confusing. Yes, they are. As I pointed out to you, that the SC, I'm sorry, the SC 600 Strat has an 8-hole pick guard, whereas the 700, even from the same year, has an 11-hole pick guard. So even in the parts in the same year for those guitars, there's differences, man. Because when they go from the 600, which is Rockman yen, to the 700, which is not a man yen, that Ichiman yen difference, they're going to put it into the guitar. They're not just like they're not like Gibson and spending it on lawsuits. They're actually putting it into the instruments. Another dig at Gibson there, which you really should be doing your money. But they really put it into the guitars. So that's the reason why there's a difference, is because actually an 11-hole pickguard was considered to be more premium over an 8. But to restore this thing, I had to find an 8. So I got 2 Grecos coming in, 70s Grecos coming in. That will put my Les Pauls that I have up. I will have currently 3 Les Pauls in stock and 4 Strats. Don't know how that happened. All of it from the 70s to early 80s. So I have really fallen into a Japanese vintage kind of thing here the last few months with my purchases. My clients seem to like them. One guy told me, Mike, you have good taste in guitars. Yeah, I used to have good taste in women, but in my old age, those days are over. I don't care so much anymore, so I can shift that into guitars more. But these are beauties. The one the Greco, the SC 600, that's going to be restored, but you'll see that when it comes. Maybe time for 5 tellies next. Well, I am. Actually, I like to keep it up. August, I'm not. I'm on vacation, guys. And by the way, I'm gonna let you guys know right now. August is going to be my vacation. I have not had a vacation, quite frankly, in years. I have. I really haven't. I've been here since I've moved here. I really haven't been anywhere. So I'm going to be going to Copenhagen in August. Also, I'm going to be going to my cabin in the woods here, spending time there. I'm not going to be purchasing any guitars, so this is my last purchase until September. Just a little bit of a heads up for all my regulars here, guys, that mic may be scarce. I don't live streams and everything else. I may do them from the cabin. I'll live. If I can pull that off, if the internet is good there, which it's really in the woods, so it's hard to say. But if I can do a live stream from the cabin in the woods, I'll do that. If I can do a live stream from Copenhagen, I'd like to. Certainly, I'm going to be filming there. I'm going to be taking you to 2 guitar shops that I've identified. As a matter of fact, I will be taking one of these vintage Japanese guitars there as well to try to see what kind of deal I can work out on something interesting. We'll see if I find something that I feel is interesting. But or find somebody who wants to pay me what I want for it, which is actually possible, because that's bringing ice cream to the desert. In that case, there's a lot of Japanese guitars of this nature do not make it that way. But anyway, just to give you guys a heads up about my future plans, I will be taking a holiday, so live streams and everything else will be catch can. But for the rest of this month, it will be regular schedule as usual. Did score Modern Light at Guitar Center for $7.99 during the holiday memorial clearance. Nice. Basically 50% off. Very nice. Ben Mark saying, thanks, Mike. Good stuff. Cheers. You deserve it, bro. Yeah, I appreciate it, you guys. I'm going to say, oh, Yasamina Sai. Good night. My headache is somewhat gone away, but I am tired. But I enjoyed tonight's discussion. I think it was a great one. Always great to give a dig into Gibson. I am trying to reach 5,000 subscribers, folks, by the end of this year. If you haven't, as of yet, subscribed with me and you like tonight's rant, why don't you hit that subscription button? Don't forget to hit the like button. We will be back here, same time, bat channel this Sunday for Sunday at Mike's. The Greco Les Strat that I wanted to film, I had to take down to Fern. I hadn't taken it to him yet. I wanted him to tighten it up. Maybe we'll go visit him and film him this week and see what he thinks about it. Maybe that's what I'll do. I keep promising regular content video, but frankly, guys, I have been working, and but I am going to put something out here shortly. So stay tuned for that. Thank you guys so much for tuning in this evening. I will talk to you soon. Please, God bless and take care. Bye bye.